Islam, Peace, Hotep. This is March 12th, 2013. Say Islam to all the Moors. As usual, we're going to start off with paying our little bills. The 24th of March, 2013, Brother Abdullah El Talib Mozi Bey, Skype lecture with Canaanland Moors. It's going to be at the first ever Moor Science Temple of America in Canaanland, Misnomer, Canada, 1704 Eglinton Avenue West, 4 p.m. It's a 20-note donation. If you never heard about Brother Abdullah before, check out his website, moorishcivilletter.net. Right? The title of the lecture is The Astronomy and Geometry of Masonry and Christianity. So that's March 24th. Also, on the 30th of March, Francis Cress Welsing is going to be in town. So Islam to the brothers for making that lecture happen. And Canaanland Moors is going to be vending at that lecture. You know, DVDs, books, etc., dealing with the Moorish paradigm. Also, March 31st, 2013, the next Skype lecture is going to be with Sheikh Jabbar Gaines Ill out of Indiana. So, if you Google that brother, Jabbar Gaines, Gaines, you'll get some articles with the battles that brother's been dealing with out in Indiana. And the title of that lecture is going to be All Moors Are Active, Not Passive, because that's one of the most active Moors that we know. Always out there, getting the information out to the people, always out there banging on the B system with the law. Right? So March 31st, Jabbar Gaines Ill, All Moors Are Active, Not Passive. And Sunday, March 24th, The Astronomy and Geometry of Masonry and Christianity. As well, I spoke with Brother Fonteus Ill. That's the Moor from the Moors versus Police on YouTube. We're going to be doing a Skype with that brother soon, so be on the lookout for that one, because you know we only deal with Moors that are active. We don't get down with religious Moors, temple, sit in the congregation and do nothing Moors, right? Our position, the reason why we are where we are right now, that we have a temple, that we have our own Kupigani and Gumi Center, that we have our own museum, our own temple, is because we deal with active Moors. We don't deal with passive Moors. And Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that all Moors are active, not passive. Right? Now, down to business. Go online. You might be able to find this article online. It's from July 21st, 1928. It's a Chicago Defender article, and the title of the article is Moorish Head Makes Plans for Conclave. Moorish Head makes plans for conclave. Or you could just call the Chicago Defender and let them put you on to that article. All right? Again, it's July 21st, 1928, right? The reason why we're bringing that up is because today, in the newspaper out here, front page news, right? The world, as they say, is waiting for the next conclave. The whole world awaits this great event of selecting the new pope. Now, when you do your research on the Roman Catholics, Vatican, etc., you'll find out that they were founded around the same time as Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish movement. Right? You'll also find out that a conclave, as they call their meeting, closed door meeting, right? A conclave is, as they say, a meeting where they select the new pope. So we're going to ask ourselves a question. Why would Noble Drew Ali be making this claim of having a conclave, right? And the Roman Catholics are calling their stuff a conclave. And when you check out the etymology of Pope, you find out that the original meaning of Pope is father. It had nothing to do with any type of religion before, I think, like 1070 or 1090 or something like that. So before 1090, right, the term Pope meant father. It had nothing to do with the religion of Roman Catholicism, right? They adopted it after. All right. Second page of the paper today. Second page of the paper, Distinct Faces of a Nation. That's the name of the article. Distinct Faces of a Nation. And the caption under this picture right here of these Sikhs with Harley Davidsons and looking like some Sikh motorcycle gang, right? The Sikh Motorcycle Club of Vancouver. The club formed during the fight to win the right to wear turbans while motorcycling in BC. Right? So in BC, British Columbia, right? And don't forget there's a District of Columbia, and just put the pieces together. British Columbia, these Sikhs won. It's not something that they're trying to win. They won the case because there's not helmets big enough to go over their turbans. So they won the case where they could ride motorcycle without a helmet. Right? And ask your question, how many people you know out there aren't going to get a ticket if they go ride without a helmet? But then there's these Sikhs that can basically ride a motorcycle on the public highway, roadway, whatever you want to call it, without a helmet, just their turban, right? And that's the same perspective that Noble Drew Ali brought to the Moors, right? Standing up for your rights. Because if you don't stand up for them, you don't have them. All right? You're going to Google Arcanum, ARCANUM, deepsecrets.wordpress.com. ARCANUM, deepsecrets.wordpress.com. Why are you going to go Google them? Because they came out with a document called 25 Rules of Disinformation. 1. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Regardless of what you know, don't discuss it, especially if you are a public figure, news anchor, etc. If it's not reported, it didn't happen, and you never have to deal with the issues. 2. Become incredulous and indignant. Avoid discussing key issues and instead focus on side issues which can be used to show the topic as being critical of some otherwise sacrosanct group or theme. This is also known as the how dare you gambit. 3. Create rumor mongers. 4. Use a straw man. 5. Sidetrack opponents with name calling and ridicule. 6. Hit and run. In any public forum, make a brief attack of your opponent or the opponent position and then scamper off before an answer can be fielded. That sounds like some people on Facebook who want to ask you a stupid question, and then when it's time to answer, they're not there. This works extremely well in internet and letters to the editor environments where a steady stream of new identities can be called upon without having to explain criticism, reasoning. Simply make an accusation or other attack, never discussing issues, never answering any subsequent response, for that would dignify the opponent's viewpoint. Question motive. Twist or amplify any fact which can be taken to imply that the opponent operates out of a hidden personal agenda or other bias. This avoids discussing issues and forces the accuser on the defensive. Right? Again, rules of disinformation. Right? Keep in mind these things when you're speaking with people, especially Moors, talking with Negro, black, colored people, Black Panthers, black supremacy, black power idiots who refuse to accept the reality that we present to them, and they want to try to push fictions on you. Right? Invoke authority. Claim for yourself or associate yourself with authority and present your argument with enough jargon and minutiae to illustrate you are one who knows, and simply say it isn't so without discussing issues or demonstrating concretely why or citing sources. Another theme, right, of agent provocateurs, especially on all these internet sites, Twitters and Instagrams and Facebook and whatever else that they got. Always playing that role of not citing sources, just throwing stuff out there, hope that people bite, right? Play dumb. 9. 10. Associate opponent charges with old news. 11. Establish and rely upon fallback positions. Using a minor matter or element of the facts, take the high road and confess with candor that some innocent mistake in hindsight was made, but that opponents have seized on the opportunity to blow it all out of proportion and imply greater criminalities, which isn't so. Others can reinforce this on your behalf later and even publicly call for an end to the nonsense because you have already done the right thing. Done properly, this can garner sympathy and respect for coming clean and owning up to your mistakes without addressing more serious issues. 12. Enigmas have no solution. 13. Alice in Wonderland logic. I'm skipping through some of these because, I gave you the website. You can go read all these yourself. We got bigger stuff to deal with. Just putting this out there. 8 traits of disinformationalist. 1. Avoidance. 2. Selectivity. 3. Coincidental. 4. Teamwork. The teamwork part is big on Facebook, because the teamwork part is where it comes into somebody makes a comment and then somebody goes and likes it, even though it's some stupid shit, right? Even though it's something that doesn't make any sense, even though it's some, let's go to 6 quick fast, even though it's some artificial emotion. So people getting mad because, you say you're not black, and they get mad, oh yeah, I'm black and all that, and they want to defend the fact that they're black when their picture clearly shows that they're brown, right? 5. Anti-conspiratorial. Right, don't forget, these are the 8 traits of disinformationalists. 7. Inconsistent. 8. Time constant. There are 3 ways this can be seen to work, especially when the government or other empowered player is involved in a cover-up operation. Anything posting by a targeted proponent for truth can result in an immediate response. The government and other empowered players can afford to pay people to sit there and watch for an opportunity to do some damage. Since this info only works if the reader sees it, fast response is called for. So when you have those situations where you say something and before you can even press enter, somebody's replying to what you didn't even push enter to yet, you already know you're dealing with disinformationalists. All right? So again, that's arcanumdeepsecrets.wordpress.com. arcanumdeepsecrets.wordpress.com. All right. Then there was another good write-up from them. The secret government, an illusion it will be, so large, so vast, it will escape their perception. Those who will see it will be thought of as insane. We will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Our goal will be accomplished one drop at a time, so as to never bring suspicion upon ourselves. This will also prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur. From all this, their children will be born dead, and we will conceal this information. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, in what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear. We must be ingenious in dispensing the poisons, for they can see far. We will teach them that the poisons are good, with fun images and musical tones. McDonald's, Burger King, etc. Those they look up to will help. Jay-Z, Rockefeller, and P. Diddy, and little Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne, etc. We will enlist them to push our poisons. They will see our products being used in film and will grow accustomed to them and will never know their true effect. When they give birth, we will inject poisons into the blood of their children and convince them it is for their help. We will start early on, when their minds are young. We will target their children in what children love most, sweet things. When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicine that will make them sicker and cause other diseases for them. We will create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before us by our power. They will grow depressed, slow, and obese, and when they come to us for help, we will give them more poison. We will establish their governments and establish opposites within. We will own both sides. We will always hide our objective but carry out our plan. They will perform the labor for us, and we will prosper from their toil. Our families will never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. We will keep them separated from oneness by dogma and religion. We will control all aspects of their lives and tell them what to think and how. And it goes on again and again. This is from arcanumdeepsecrets.wordpress.com, and you can also go to zioncrimefactory.com. Right? Today's class is dealing with King Alfred Plan, the executive order to exterminate blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites, aka the minority. And we're gonna go through majority of this booklet today because it's something that I don't see people do. Right? We make reference to it, we read parts of it, but we don't read the book from the front to the end so you can get a perspective. So today is going to be King Alfred Plan all day, right? So leading up to King Alfred Plan, we're going to just put it out there so everybody knows that King Alfred Plan has been in operations and they have no intentions of you being free, right? And that they have people and they've put things in place to make sure that our people that want to call themselves Negro, black, colored, etc. don't get there, right? And this is why it's important to understand what Noble Drew Ali did, what he came for, and the fact that he's still alive and well. You might want to look up juridic person. Juridic, juridic person, right? Because that's what Prophet Noble Drew Ali is, right? The actual man is Timothy Drew. He proclaimed his nationality. His free national name is Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. His free national name is not Noble Drew Ali, because Drew's a European name and it's a contradiction to put Ali on a European name, right? So we're going to start with a whites-only policy and general racist intent. July 11th Washington Times article reported that the Roundup was trying to tone down the racist trappings of the Roundup, but that even so, a quote-unquote whites-only policy remains in effect. The Washington Times repeated this allegation in subsequent Roundup stories. See Jerry Sepper appalled, JERRYSEPER appalled. ATF chief orders probe of agents' role in racist Roundup. The Washington Times, July 12, 1995. Jerry Sepper, Army up in arms over ATF racism. The Washington Times, July 13, 1995. Jerry Sepper, ATF ignored tales of Roundup. The Washington Times, July 14, 1995. Paul Bedard and Jerry Sepper. Clinton has harsh words for ATF agents FET. The Washington Times, July 20th, 1995. On July 13th, ATF Director John McGaw, MAGAW, appeared on Good Morning America to discuss the Roundup declared that from 80 to 85 there was none of this discrimination or anti-Semitism, but from 85 up until now it really had discrimination almost every year. From 85 on, it has become racist in nature. Racist in nature in terms of the things you're seeing and the news media puts forward. The theme was pursued in a follow-up article on July 14th in the Washington Times, which cited a January 24th, 1995 deposition of Dondi Albritton. So DONDIALBRITTON, a black ATF agent. Keep in mind, a black ATF agent. This deposition was taken in conjunction with a lawsuit by a group of black ATF agents against the ATF that was filed in November 1990 in the Federal District Court in Washington, D.C., alleging racial discrimination and seeking substantial monetary damages. At the time of this report, the case is pending. The article quoted Albritton as testifying that it was common knowledge within ATF that no blacks have ever been invited to attend the Roundup. At a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing held July 21, 1995, several witnesses discussed the alleged discriminatory and racist nature of the Roundup. Committee Chairman Orrin G. Hatch reported his investigators' preliminary findings that although approximately 15 African Americans, come back again to the fraud terms, right? So black and African Americans had attended the Roundup as guests and other attendees, none had ever been sent a written invitation. And notwithstanding his statements on Good Morning America 8 days earlier that the Roundup did not become racist until 1985, Director McGraw testified that blacks would not have felt welcome at this event from the very inception, and that it was just basically known that blacks were not invited. Larry Stewart, a black ATF agent, claimed at the hearing that while all the white agents in his office had received invitations to the Roundup, he had not. he related his impression that no African American had ever been invited to attend or was present at a roundup. Similarly, Curtis Cooper, Curtis with a C, Cooper, a retired black ATF agent, testified that he did not receive an invitation to the roundup, so he assumed that the invitation to attend was for white agents only. Reitmeyer, the organizer of the roundup, was known or has been accused of having racist tendencies. Reitmeyer declined the State Judicial Committee's invitation to testify at its July 21st hearing, claiming he would not receive a fair hearing under the circumstances. A copy of this letter is contained in the appendix to this report, section C at 53. In an interview with a newspaper, reporter Reitmeyer denied that he or the roundup sanctioned racist activity or excluded minorities and declared that the roundup was just a bunch of good old boys having a good time. So the invite reads, Federal Nigger Hunting License. This certifies that whatever name, address, sex, weight, age, height, city, eyes, hair, having paid the licensing fee, is hereby licensed to hunt and kill niggers during the open season hereof in the United States. Right, private corporation. This license must be carried on person when hunting niggers, and gives the holder permission to hunt day or night with or without dogs, issued at wherever in the USA, this day of whatever, issued by, and then there's a clerk warden's signature of licensee. Season opens January 1st, closes December 31st. All right? So this is the ATF Federal Nigger Hunting License. For all the people who want to claim that they're Negro, black, colored, right? They got licenses. And don't forget, this is ATF. So these are officers, so-called officers. And if they have this in their pocket, now you know why Rodney King, Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, and the list is extensive. And now you know why they always get off, because they have a license to do this. Right? This King Alfred Plan in full effect for those people who think King Alfred Plan is some kind of joke. Right? Now we're going to go to Big Brother William Cooper, who they assassinated for his book, Behold a Pale Horse. And we've gone through this book before, book's still sitting on the shelf at the bookstore, so people obviously aren't taking this serious. William Cooper, author's note. So now you know, this chapter could only come in the beginning. Your preconceived ideas had to be shattered in order for you to understand the rest of this book. In this chapter, you can see every step that the elite have taken in their war to control this once great nation. You can see the steps that will be taken in the future. You can no longer pretend innocence. Your denial of the conspiracy will fall on deaf ears. This book is part of the education that will give Americans, if you look up the etymology of Americans, so you know who he's talking to. He's not talking to Europeans, right? This part of the book this book is part of the education that will give Americans the weapons needed in the coming months and years of hardships as the New World Order struggles to be born. Many will argue that silent weapons for quiet wars is only a bogus conglomeration of words for which the writer has never taken credit or responsibility. Those who do so ignore the self-evident truths contained within the document. They ignore these truths because there is an indictment of their own ignorance which they cannot face. The document, first found in 1969, correctly outlines events which subsequently came to pass. It cannot be ignored or dismissed. The document is genuine. Its truths cannot be negated or shrugged away. The message is this: you must accept that you have been cattle, and the ultimate consequence of being cattle, which is slavery, or you must prepare to fight and, if necessary, die to preserve your God-given right to freedom. The last sentence is the real reason why people choose to ignore the silent weapons for quiet wars. People are not ready to admit that they have been cattle. They are not prepared to fight and, if necessary, die for freedom. It is an indictment of the citizens of the United States of America. And that is the total confirmation of the truth of the information contained in Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, there's the chapter 1. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars is, in actuality, King Alfred Plan. Right? So, we all know Bill William Cooper was killed for his book, Behold the Pale Horse. Shot him up on the highway, saying that he's, some terrorist trying to overthrow the government, which is really a private corporation. Right? Why they do that to him? Because he falls under the category of poor white. Because he was an ex-military who left the military because he found out all the crap that was going on, and they took him out because he knew too much. And he put that in his book, and they assassinated him for his book. Right? But we're not going to take that serious because, kill the white man and all that. Right? All right. We go to the Shriners recognition tests. So all the people who, Shriners or whatever, when you go to their little parade that you're promoting, go ask them about this recognition test that you have to take. Right? According to a Lauderer manuscript, this is how two Shriners recognize each other. Question: then I presume you are noble. Answer: I am so accepted by all men of noble birth. Question: have you traveled any? I have. From where to what place have you traveled? Traveled east over the hot burning sands of the desert. You sound familiar? You NOI guys? Nation of Gods of Earth guys? Travel east over the hot burning sands of the desert. Where were you stopped at? At the Devil's Pass. What were you requested to do? I was requested to contribute a few drops of urine. Why were you requested to do this? As a token of my renouncing the wiles and evils of the world, and granted permission to worship at the shrine. At what shrine did you worship? At the shrine of Islam. This is the Shriners recognition test. Did you ride? Yes. I rode a camel until I paused to dismount. Then what did you do with your camel? I tied him. Where did you tie him? I tied him to a date tree where all true Shriners do so. Both. Yes. I pulled the cord, rode the hump. I traversed the hot, arid sands of the desert to find peace and rest in the quiet shades of the oasis. Initiation. There are two sides to Freemason initiations. One, a standardized, sedate ritual. The other, a highly variable set of hazing stunts. Prospective Masons must apply of their own free will. Masons may not recruit friends, at least not in theory. Proposed members are investigated by a committee of lodge members. This is often just a formality, but may include, for instance, a credit report. The committee reports on the candidate at a large meeting. Members then vote. The ballot box is the lottery catalog, uses white balls and black cubes. Losers are black cubed, not blackballed. If there is a single negative vote, the ballot is declared foul. The lodge master, who sees how each member voted, may try to convince dissenting members to reconsider. A negative verdict on the second ballot is final. Successful candidates are initiated to the lodge for initiation. There are 3 basic degrees: entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. Keep in mind, Django going with the blue in the beginning, in the end having the maroon, which means he did his lessons, right? He made it to master mason at the end. That's why he's carrying the light and all that. We talked about that. Entered apprentice candidates begin by taking off their clothes to prove their gender. Women may not become masons. In practice, this means taking off the pants and any jacket. Underwear and shirt are kept on, but the shirt is unbuttoned and pulled down to bare the left arm, shoulder, and breast. Right? Underwear and shirt are kept on, but the shirt is unbuttoned and pulled down to bare the left arm, shoulder, and breast. This is why Leonardo DiCaprio got shot in his left side. This is why the slave master whipping the girl for breaking the eggs, he got shot in his left side, because it's all Masonic rituals that they're trying to tell people, but Negro black colors, they don't hear, right? They don't follow what's going on. The candidate is hoodwinked, blindfolded, right? When you say blindfolded, first thing that should come to anybody's mind is the Corsica flag. As soon as they say blindfolded, that's first thing that should come to your mind. Moor's head on a flag with blindfolds over the eyes. A cable tow rope is placed around the neck. Second thing that should come to your mind is slavery. To verify this, the Lauderer's Catalog's hoodwink is a simple standard. A black satin half face mask without eye holes, secured with an elastic string, is put over the initiate's head. The cable tow is a heavy blue rayon cord with tassels at both ends. Ideally, the cable tow is supposed to have 4 strands to symbolize the 4 senses. They do not count touch. Right? So that's the Shriner's ritual when you're going in. Right? You're hoodwinked, blindfolded, which means they're making you to be a Moor, or they're making them to be a Moor. Right? The cable tow is placed around their neck, and a black satin half mask is put over their head without any eye holes. Right? Everybody wants to be the Moors. We talked about it in the Dutch controversy in Toronto with Zwart Piet, and Europeans putting on blackface, dressing up like Moors, parading down the street. But in North America, they're going to go tell you about Santa Claus. But when they go in Europe, they're dressing up like Zwart Piet, who's a Moor. Right? So it's common knowledge that everybody wants to be the Moors and knows about the Moors, and that's the secret of all these lodges. Now, the Black Lodge, called, right now, we're going to call it the Nation of Islam, the Black Lodge, in the first examination assignment of Mr. Elijah Muhammad, they asked the question, what is the devil? Answer, a grafted man which is made weak and wicked, or any grafted live germ from the original is a devil. Can you reform the devil? Answer, no. All prophets have tried to reform him, devil, but were unable. So, they have agreed that it cannot be done unless we graft him back to the original man, which takes 600 years. So, instead of losing time grafting him back, they have decided to take him off the planet, who numbers only 1 to every 11 original people. Tell us the exact date of expiration of the devil's civilization. Answer: expired in 1914. Noble Drew Ali came in 1913. The devil's reign expired, according to the Nation of Islam, in 1914, which means that they know about the Prophet, they know what's going down. We already put it out there. Somebody needs to go ask Farrakhan. Ask the $1 million question. How did he get back into the country when he went to go check Gaddafi? Right? After people were talking about, they're not going to let him back and they're going to arrest him and all that. Right? So, why? What's the importance of Noble Drew Ali and what he brought? Noble Drew Ali came and told us that we're not Negro, black, coloreds, or Ethiopians, because these names were given, these names were branded, these names were put on the Moors, which means that before we were black, Negro, colored, etc., we were Moors, and we became these labels, right? Because we don't want to honor our ancient foremothers and forefathers, because there was a brother that been kicking his ass all week with the knowledge, right? Because he thinks that Turks and Arabs and all these people aren't dark-skinned people, right? And even though I could put 50 videos up, not what I say, 50 videos up that Europeans, Turks, whoever, Hindus, whoever, everybody knows that dark-skinned people rule the planet. Everybody accepts the fact that dark-skinned people rule the planet, and that the people that rule the planet are dark. They're not black. But nah, they don't want to accept that. So we're going to go right back again to the European, right? And put it on the record. One thing I'm going to say is big up to Ray Higgins for putting King Alfred Plan on the record, even though he didn't know what he was talking about, and he's, talking about black people and all that, African people, even though he had the document, he was reading from the document that this executive order was authorized 1969 to counteract the minority. Emphasize, underlined, in dark letters, blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites in their rise up from under the oppression and powers that be the government. In the event of widespread and continuing and coordinated racial disturbances in the United States, private corporation, King Alfred Plan, at the discretion of the president, whose dark skin is to be put into action immediately. So don't think that you're going to blame the cracker when they start. And don't forget, chips are coming next year. So you have a year to consider what Noble Drew Ali said, what Noble Drew Ali brought you, and get yourself back into the constitutional fold so you can protect yourself, because these people are not playing, right? They already, just last week, out here, right? Because I'm in the school board. A young man who's not even dark-skinned, a European, got expelled from school because he didn't get his flu shot. So if they're going to be expelling people for not taking flu shots, what do you think they're going to be doing for people for not taking the chip? And you want to play around that you're Negro, black, colored? Cool, you keep playing, right? Because I'm not playing with you guys anymore, right? Either you humble yourself, proclaim your Moorish nationality, forget all that crap people talk about you, Moorish is not a nationality and you're not Moors and all that. That's what you are. That's the last name that we fell as, documented in the books. The Moors fell in 1492. That was the last name that we had on the planet, all over the world. There was no Egyptian, there was no Kemetans, Sumerians, Phoenicians, etc. in 1492. There was only Moors all over the world. All over the world. And we have an obligation as Moors to go out there and at least tell these people. If they don't want to accept it, that's on them. But we have an obligation to let them know. If you have El Bay on your name, you can't be playing around. You're in the temple and you belong to some club and then they're not in it because they call themselves black. Even if they call themselves black, they're Moors. Even if they call themselves Negro, colored, Trinidadian, Jamaican, etc., they're Moors. And if we don't tell them, right, if we don't, Noble Drew Ali said, the only way that these people are going to be saved is through the Moorish Divine and National Movement. Right? Because the Europeans' intentions of dealing with this nigger problem that they've been trying to deal with for so long, right? The way that they're dealing with it is nigger hunting licenses. The way that they're dealing with it is burn you at the stake. Right? This is how they're going to deal with the niggers, the blacks, the Latinos, the poor whites. That's their plan. Right? Period. Whoever wants to play around that, oh yeah, that's why Noble Drew Ali said, don't worry, just leave the doors open, because the European is going to have these Negro black coloreds running to say that they're Moors in a few years. They're going to be, it's happening right now. We're getting calls from New Zealand. We're getting calls from Germany. We're in Canada, so-called. We're getting calls from New Zealand. People in New Zealand want to know how they could get down on this information. People in Alaska, right? Don't believe me. Go talk to the admin for our site, Adisa L, and let him email you all the messages that we get every single week from people all over the world. It's not even people in our own territory. People all over the world are hearing that there's this man by the name of Noble Drew Ali that came to redeem the people from their sinful ways, and they're jumping on the boat, except his own people, which is exactly what whatever president was told him, that, you know, as long as I got liquor stores and as long as I got churches and I have my schools open, you're not even getting a handful of these niggers. Right? So, let's go. This booklet contains vital excerpts from Executive Order 11490, October 19th, 1969. The Rex 84 Plan, concentration camps, Executive 11490 expanded, top secret, silent weapons for quiet wars. Remember, I told you already, right? Behold a pale horse. If you don't have it, you better try to get it, because they're going to be discontinuing this book soon. It's hard enough right now to get it. Right? This is going to be discontinued soon. Introductory Programming Manual, Operations Research, Technical Manual TM SW 7905.1 for all of those military people who, you know, want to make claims that they're AWOL and whatever. You know, I don't have to do nothing that they say. All right. We'll see what happens. Union States of America Incorporated. The Executive Order number 11490, the Rex 84 Plan and Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, has been in the hands of the popularly accepted individuals calling themselves the Black Leaders since the early 70s. So since the early 70s, your own people, your own leaders, and notice that it's specific with the popularly accepted individuals calling themselves the Black Leaders. We don't even have to name them. Y'all already know who they are, because you've been following them for the past, since the 70s. All those niggers sold you out. Many have spoken of them, but few have logistically broken them down and disseminated the information to their alluring public. The King Alfred Plan implicates the true motive and reason why they do not. One will take note that all people mentioned in these government plans, blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites, do not include a de jure national name or title. All these words are descriptive shadow brands coined by Europeans as substitute pedigree parentage names and were forced as appellations on indigenous people of the Americas and their own discards. All people bearing these labels, Negro, black, colored, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and whites, poor whites, rich whites, whatever. All people bearing these labels are referred to as it. One common thread is evident. No nationality equals no rights and no human value. Are any of the states assigned black leaders speaking of or educating their people in recourse, redress, remedy, or sovereignty? Do they instruct or do they not? That is the question. So before we get into this document, why is this called King Alfred? Who is he? Alfred, Old English Alfred, 849 to 899, King of Wessex, 871 to 899, sometimes called Alfred the Great. Wantage, Berkshire, youngest of the 4 sons of King Ethelwulf. He was sent in 853 and again in 855 to Rome, where the Pope invested him with the honorary dignitary of a Roman consul. He lacked adequate instruction and learned to read English only after he was 12. His adolescence was marked by ill health and deep religious devotion, both of which persisted for the rest of his life. Little is known of him during the end of his father's reign and the reigns of his older brothers Ethelbald and Ethelbert. But when Ethelred took the throne in 865, Alfred became his secundarius viceroy and aided his brother in subsequent battles against the Danes, who now threatened to overrun all of England. And you're going to go get Ancient and Modern Brits by David McRitchie, volumes 1 and 2, and he'll tell you that the Danes are Moors. Call them Picts. And then that's where in the Caribbean, when we say picnic, you're talking about a small child or whatever. A picnic is a Pict, and a Pict is a Dane, a Celt, whatever, from Europe, Moors. When the Danes turned from the east and north regions late in 870 to Wessex, Ethelred and Alfred resisted with various fortunes in a victory at Ashdown, Berkshire, a defeat at Basing, and several decisive engagements. Upon his brother's death after Easter in 871, Alfred became king of the West Saxons and overlord of Kent, Surrey, Sussex, and Essex. Faced by an enemy too powerful to defeat decisively, Alfred cleared the Danes from Wessex by a heavy payment of tribute. See Danegeld, Danegeld. In 876 and 877, the Danes returned to ravage for several months and finally, halted by Alfred's army, swore to leave Wessex forever. However, in a surprise invasion early in 878, the Danes crushed Alfred's forces and he fled to Athelney in the fens of Somerset, from which he continued to wage guerrilla war. The famous legend of Alfred and the Cakes, in which he appears as an unrecognized king, exposed to the scolding of a peasant woman, probably reflects this period of his life. After rallied his army to win a complete victory at Edington. He then dictated the Peace of Chippenham, or Westmore, by which Guthrum, the Danish leader, accepted baptism and probably agreed to separate England into English and Danish spheres of influence. The Danes moved into East Anglia and East Mercia, and Alfred established his overlordship in West Mercia, and Alfred established his overlordship in West Mercia. In later campaigns, scantily recorded, Alfred captured London and again defeated the Danes. Another treaty with Guthrum in 886 marked off the Danelaw east and north of the Thames, and Lee and Ouse and Watling Street, leaving the south and west of England to Alfred, established the relative indemnities of Englishmen and Danes in law, and attempted to prevent border raids. Alfred's achievements. Security gave Alfred his chance. He instituted reforms. Against further probable attacks by the Danes, he organized the militia about numerous garrisoned forts throughout Wessex and commanded the instruction of a fleet. Drawing from the old codes of Ethelbert of Kent, Ian of Wessex, and Offa of Mercia, he issued his own code of laws, marked at once by Christian doctrine and measures for a stronger centralized monarchy. He reformed the administration of justice and energetically participated in it. He came eventually to be considered the overlord of all England, although his title was not realized in concrete political administration. His greatest achievements were the revival of learning and the establishment of Old English literary prose. Alfred gathered together a group of eminent scholars, including the Welshman Asser. They strengthened the church by reviving learning among the clergy and organized a court school like that of Charlemagne, in which not only youth and clerics but also mature nobles were taught. Alfred himself, between 887 and 892, learned Latin and translated several Latin works into English. Gregory the Great's pastoral care, blah blah blah, right? So Alfred was responsible for the defeat of the Danes, who were Moors. And keep in mind that this executive order is to counteract the minority, blacks, which are Moors, Indians, which are Moors, Latinos, which are Moors, Puerto Ricans, which are Moors, and poor whites, which are Moors, misnomered these labels: blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites. In the event of widespread and continuing and coordinated racial disturbances in the United States, King Alfred, at the discretion of the President, is to be put into action immediately. Participating federal agencies: National Security Council, CIA, FBI, Department of Justice, Department of Defense, Department of Interior. Participating state agencies: National Guard units, state police. Participating local agencies: city police, county police. Excuse me.
Kevin,
Hi, how are you?
next month for April, you have a credit of $10.74.
All right.
We're writing it down, make sure you minus it from your rent for April.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, national area map. So this is the national area map, right? And it just breaks down the different jurisdictions, or how they break down the jurisdictions. Okay? So we know what they're working with. Okay? Memo, National Security Council. Even before 1954, when the Supreme Court of the United States of America declared unconstitutional separate and educational and recreational facilities, racial unrest and discord had become very nearly a part of the American way of life. But that way of life was repugnant to most Americans. Since 1954, however, that unrest and discord have broken out into widespread violence, which increasingly have placed the peace and stability of the nation in dire jeopardy. This violence has resulted in loss of life, limb, and property, and has cost the taxpayers of this nation billions of dollars. And the end is not yet in sight. This same violence has raised the tremendously grave question as to whether the races can ever live in peace with each other. Each passing month has brought new intelligence that despite new laws passed to alleviate the condition of the minority is still not satisfied. Demonstrations and rioting have become a part of the familiar scene. Troops have been called out in city after city across the land, and our image as a world leader severely damaged. Our enemies press closer. So Negro, black, colored, poor whites, Latinos, etc., these people are seen as enemies, right, to the corporate construct. Our enemies press closer, seeking the advantage, possibly at a time during one of these outbreaks of violence. The minority has adopted an almost military posture to gain its objectives, which are not clear to most Americans. It is expected, therefore, that when these objectives are denied the minority, racial war must be considered inevitable. When that emergency comes, we must expect the total involvement of all 22 million members of the minority, men, women, and children, for once this project is launched, its goal is to terminate once and for all the minority threat to the whole of the American society and indeed the free world. When that emergency comes, we must expect the total involvement of all 22 million members of the minority, men, women, and children. For once this project is launched, its goal is to terminate once and for all the minority threat to the whole of the American society and indeed the free world. Chairman of the National Security Council. Preliminary memo, Department of Interior. Under King Alfred, the nation has been divided into 10 regions. In case of emergency, minority members will be evacuated from the cities by federalized National Guard units, local and state police, and if necessary, by units of the regular armed forces, using public and military transportation, and detained in nearby military installations until a further course of action has been decided. They did that here during the G20, when they corralled all these people who were, claimed to be protesters against the G20. They corralled them and housed them in a makeshift concentration camp, right? You just go online, Google G20 Toronto, police riots and all that, and you'll read all the stories of all the innocent people. Guy just out there went for a cup of coffee, caught up in a concentration camp. Lady just walking her dog, caught up in this corralling of people, right? So they have plans that these plans aren't being worked on. These plans are in place already. This is from 1969. They've been waiting. from 1969, 1970, they've used your so-called black leaders to create this atmosphere of racial tension between the quote-unquote races, right? In order to get you to be docile, sheep, cattle, whatever, to be its. And once you're it, you're had. You're done for, right? So 10 regions. The 10 regions are 1. Capital regions, 2. Northeast region, 3. Southeast region, 4. Great Lakes region, that's where Canaanland is, 5. South Central region, 6. Deep South region 2, 7. Deep South region 2, 8. Great Plains Rocky Mountains region, 9. Southwest region, 10. A and B West Coast region. No attempt will be made to seal off the Canadian and Mexican borders. Secretary, Department of Interior. Right? So here's the map showing the different regions, right? And then there you go, you have the 10 regions, right? You have the 10 regions, and then you have the map numbered. You know, don't worry, you can go back, it's going to be posted. You can go back and put the pieces together. All right? Combined memo, Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Central Intelligence Agency. There are 12 major minority organizations, and all are familiar to the 22 million. Dossiers have been compiled on the leaders of the organizations and can be studied in Washington. So if you go to the Library of Congress, right, dossiers have been compiled on the leaders of the organizations that we're going to name momentarily. The material contained in many of these dossiers and our threat to reveal that material, so the fact that they've known about this for the whole time and they haven't told you, Negro, black, colored people who just want to be followers, not leaders, right? They have information in these briefs about all these black leaders, and the threat to reveal that material has kept considerably held in check the activities of some of the leaders. So any leaders out there, quote unquote black leaders, that, you know, you have to question certain things. You know, the best example is NOI because they're the biggest, right? So you have this head of this organization, you know, Islamic Nation or whatever, right? And he's making claims of, you know, people are abusing their power and, you know, talking negative about this jurisdiction called U.S. But even though he talks negative about U.S, he's going to be able to go get Washington to go have a march. Like, how is it that he's able to get Washington to go have a march? In order to go to the march and talk crap about the people who he got permission from to use that space right there. Because they have considerably held in check the activities of the leaders because of the threat to reveal materials that they have in their files that the CIA, FBI has been collecting on these people for the past 30, 40 years, right? Maybe even longer than that, right? Not even maybe, longer than that, right? Leaders who do not have such usable materials in their dossiers have been approached to take government posts mostly as ambassadors and primarily in African countries. So for that part, you're going to go look at the Lumumba story. The Patrice Lumumba story is a perfect example of leaders who do not have such usable materials in their dossiers have been approached to take government posts, mostly as ambassadors and primarily in African countries. So when you hear that some black guy, African guy, Negro, colored, whatever, has been made an ambassador and they ship him out of here to some other country, know that that's a King Alfred Plan agent, right? The promise of these positions also has materially contributed to a temporary slowdown of minority activities, right? That's why Noble Drew Ali said that all Moors are active, not passive. Because as Moors, we can't be slowing down. The only way that we can be slowed down is through infiltration, right? Which is what was done since Noble Drew Ali passed. Since 1929, the amount of infiltration that's happened in the Moorish movement by agents, King Alfred Plan agents, in order to keep you Negro, black, colored, so you don't find out about your nationality and birthright, is paramount, is Gibraltar. So it's extremely important that if you consider yourself a black person, and we're talking to the King Nobles, the Setis, all these heads, all these people who have certain positions and they claim that they're, the beasts and all this type of stuff, but they're not doing anything, right? They're keeping you docile, right? They're keeping you in a mind frame of a minor. You call yourself black, your mentality is obviously minor, because clearly, we're brown people. Clearly we're brown people, right? My shirt's black. That's why I wore the shirt today. So you can see the difference between black and brown, because it seems that some of our people are colorblind, right? However, we do not expect these slowdowns to be of long duration, so they know that many of our people do have the mental capacity of an adult or a majority and not a minor, and they can think for themselves and they can realize that something is wrong. If they stop and think about it, if they look at all the cards on the table, it's clear that there's a problem. It's clear that how come everybody's making progress and we're not making any? How come we talk the most shit, but we're the furthest behind? And people who are silent, not saying nothing, they're making progress that we should have made 80 years ago, right? However, we do not expect these slowdowns to be of long duration, because there are always new and dissident elements joining these organizations with the potential power to replace the old leaders. So a perfect example of that is, I'm going to use Black Panther Party. Now you had General Khalid came out and said that he's a Moor, right? Came out and said that he's a Moor. They assassinate him and then replace him with a lawyer who's an officer of the court. The same court that all these Negro, black, color people run to go pay nigger tickets, taxes, go through this administrative tribunal thinking that they're dealing with law, right? There's always, and I mean, I don't know, considering he's a lawyer, he would have had to been groomed. He would have had to have been trained in order to hold that position as a head. Because I remember seeing some Malik Zulu Shabazz stuff where, I wanted him to be the next Black Panther power leader, right? If anything happened to Khalid. Unfortunately, something did happen to Khalid, but it happened to him because he said that he's a Moor all of a sudden. All of a sudden he came out and said that he's a Moor. But then everybody who honors him have him up on their Facebook, have him as their profile picture, starting, new Black Panther movement, and they're not gonna follow tune of what he said. What he was just flapping his gums. You think he didn't get a hold of King Alfred Plan and know exactly what was going on, why he said that, right? But just he didn't want what happened to El Hajj to happen to him, and it happened, because you can't make statements like I'm a Moor but not have El Bay Ali Day or something on your name. You're committing a fraud, and you're leaving yourself open to be assassinated. And that was his problem. Opposed to saying he's a Moor, he should have said, I'm a Moor, Khalid Muhammad Bey, Khalid Muhammad Il, Khalid Muhammad Ali, whatever. That should have been his position, right? But dirty Moors are the ones that probably schooled him, right? Dirty Moors are the ones that put him on the info. No different than dirty Moor put Muhammad Ali onto the info, but didn't tell him the secret that you can't call yourself Ali because that name's exalted and you have to earn it. And that's the Prophet's words. And if you go against the Prophet, guarantee you something's going to happen to you. Guaranteed, if you go against the Prophet, something's going to happen to you. Right? That's why Muhammad Ali's not there and he has the shaky hand and he can't. Because Elijah Muhammad put a hex on that brother. People don't want to admit it, but that's what happened. Because Elijah Muhammad was taught by the Prophet and he knew that you're not supposed to name people Ali. That's a title that you earn. You don't just give inept the title of Ali. You can't do that. That's adept lesson. That's not just something that we're saying. That's a real thing. Like, you can't do that. That name is exalted. Go look up exalted. And if you don't qualify under the definition of exalted to have that name, you better take that name off, because guarantee you, all you people out there named Ali, shit's gonna hit the fan for you. For sure. Guaranteed. Right? All organizations and their leaders are under constant 24-hour surveillance. All. Not some, not few of them, all of them are under constant 24-hour surveillance. Infiltrated organizations are Black Muslims, Student Non-Violating Coordinating Committee, Congress of Racial Equality, Euro Movement, Group on Advanced Leadership, Freedom Now Party, United Nationalists of America, United Black Nationalists of America, New Pan-African Movement, National Urban League, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Committee on Racial and Religious Progress. And we can talk crap and say that we want to be part of all these organizations, but all of these organizations and their leaders are under 24-hour constant surveillance since 1969, and more than likely before 1969. Constant. Just go. You can go on the FBI website right now, punch in NOI, and they're literally giving you the FBI files on all these organizations. Just go punch in these names of these organizations on the FBI website, and they'll give you. You don't even have to pay. They're letting you know that all these organizations are infiltrated organizations, and they've had agents in them since the inception of them. This is serious business for those who want to take it serious. Note, at the appropriate time to be designated by the president, who's a Moor, because you can go check the records, he knows that the Muslims were the ones who founded this great nation that he's the head of. He said it out of his own mouth. He said out of his own mouth that he's not black. Don't call him black president. He has nationality that he can go back to. He has nationality that he can go back to. He's not some black guy. People might call him black president. He admitted on the record that he's not black. So don't think that he's not down with King Alfred Plan and getting rid of the nigger problem, because he has Pleasant Bay's book. He knows about exhuming of a nation. He has a Moroccan flag. We saw him flying it. Right? They know what's up. We can assume that they don't know anything, but trust me, take it from me. I've seen the documentation, right? That Moorish American national government put him on notice. And he has Pleasant Bay's book. And when he became president, he went to Morocco. And Michelle went to the Alhambra. And those are the strongholds of the Moors. So you keep playing that's your president and all that crap. He doesn't care about black people. That's why he's not going to Chicago to talk about no black on black violence and all that crap. Because black, according to science, means death. Everybody knows this lesson except the people who call themselves this dead term. At the appropriate time to be designated by the president, the leaders of some of these organizations are to be detained only when it is clear that they cannot prevent the emergency. So, with local police, with local public officials during the first critical hours, all other leaders are to be detained at once. Compile lists of minority leaders have been readied at the National Data Computer Center. So go call them. Go call the National Data Computer Center and ask them, because, Freedom of Information Act, you want to see the compiled list of minority leaders. No, you better be calling them as LB, because if you call them as black, they're not giving jack to you. It is necessary to use the minority leaders designated by the president in much the same manner in which we use minority members who are agents with central and federal, and we cannot, until there is no alternative, reveal King Alfred in all its aspects. Minority members of Congress will be unseated at once. This move is not without precedent in American history. Attorney General. And the Attorney General, remember, the Attorney General is the one who can speak on behalf of the so-called straw man if someone is not improprium persona sui juris. So if you're not improprium persona sui juris and you think that you can talk for yourself, believe me, they are going to shut you down, shut you up, and somebody else, more than likely a lawyer, is going to talk for you. That's why you're going to go do your research on all these black, Negro, colored organizations and find out how many heads of them are lawyers, because a lawyer is an officer of the court. And when King Alfred Plan kicks off, if you're a member that signed something or has a card or something for these organizations, that lawyer who's an officer of the court is going to be talking for you. You're not going to have the opportunity to say anything. This is how it goes. Look at the records of all your friends that you know who hired a lawyer, and when they go to court, they have to shut the hell up and let their lawyer talk. This is not a game. If you are a ward of the crown because you hired a lawyer, if you are a ward of the state, if you hired a lawyer, understand that that lawyer, attorney, whatever, is talking for you, and their obligation is to the court. Their obligation is not to you. Go ask your boy who's doing 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever years for whatever they did that had a lawyer. They'll tell you that they got shafted by their lawyer and they paid them. It's go watch the Liar Liar movie with Jim Carrey. Like they've been telling you. People think that this Moorish nationality is some joke thing, that Prophet Noble Juali is some guy with a funny hat. Right? He was giving you back your status so you can handle your own affairs. Because if you let any of these agents handle your affairs for you, guaranteed you're going to be in a concentration camp. And you're not even going to know you're in a concentration camp. Preliminary memo, Department of Defense. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So the Joint Chiefs of Staff is all the military guys. So all the military guys, the heads of the military, everybody knows what's up. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. Desperate and dangerous will, just keep in mind why they call our people coons. For raccoon. Because ever since we so-called got off those slave ships, we've been desperate. And once you're desperate, you will do dangerous things. And they're not even fathoming the thought of dealing with the desperate and dangerous will of the Moors, because they know about Hannibal, they know about Mansa Musa, they know about Rosa Parks, they know about Nanny of the Maroons, they know what's going to go down if we get desperate. They know what's going to go on. That's why they bombed certain people, right? Because once we get our stuff, once we be the D1 again, once we be the military that we are by birthright again, they know that it's over for them. But we cannot pretend and talk about kill crackers and all that stuff in a black status, because you're wrong. Trust me, you're wrong. Ask all these people who Trayvon Martin got killed. They want to go issue some bounty to go kidnap some guy who did something, and what happened to Zimmerman? How come nobody's not talking about Zimmerman no more? All of a sudden, he's not. All those people, they forgot about their bounty and all that, right? All the hoods are off now. Nobody's not wearing hoodies no more and all that. What happened to all those hoodies? Repping Trayvon Martin. You're going to wear hoodies until Zimmerman gets whatever he deserves. And, what's going on? Right? He, meaning the minority, will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage, and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. That's what Farrakhan learned when he went to go check Gaddafi. Put the pieces together and stop playing around, because these people have no intentions of the its. If you're it, Negro, black, colored, Latino, Puerto Rican, poor, white, Indian, if you're it, you're done for. You can't run anywhere, because you're bound to this continent by heritage, and political asylum is not available to you in other countries. Period. Political asylum is not available to you in any other countries. That's why, even though we came over here on a slave ship, none of the 54, 56, 60, 80, how much ever African nations, tribes, etc. made a call to any of these European nations to release. Slavery's over. So if slavery's over, how come none of these African nations, right, are making the call? Think about it. Slavery's over. Slavery's been over for 200 something years. How come none of these African nations are making the call to the so-called colonizer, who you call the white man, to release you back into their custody if slavery's over? Isn't that the first thing that they're supposed to do? Go get the prisoners of war back? Everybody sold you out because you want to call yourself something that you're not. Brother Sheldon Bay broke it down to you in the German Moors lecture, that his European friend told him, the only reason we stopped calling you Moors is because you started calling yourself black. And they just went with it, because we're the founders of civilization. If we don't want to be who our ancient foremothers and forefathers are, and we want to be some fraud, then all right, cool. I mean, what do we want from them? Right? This is not a joke. I suggest, if they're telling you right here that you're Moors, they're telling you that this is your land, they're telling you that you're bound to the continent by heritage. I don't care if it's Temple Moors, Dirty Moors, or whatever. I suggest, if you are Negro, black, colored, that you run to the Moorish Science Temple of America immediately and go get a nationality card. You can do it online. You can go to moorishguidepost.com. They do nationality online. You can go to rvbaypublications.com. They do nationality online. You can go to the Moorish American National Government. They do nationality online, because these people know that you're bound to this continent by heritage. And political asylum is not available to you in other countries. Not because it's not available to you, but because you're claiming to be it. And you know, people are gonna play the game. People are gonna play the game like, well, I don't want to be part of a religion, and you know, if I say that I'm a more, forget all that crap, right? Leave that alone. Go to the temple, proclaim your nationality, get yourself a nationality card, keep it in your pocket in secret. You don't even have to tell anybody. Do it in secret. Because trust me, majority of those blackheads that you hold all so high and mighty and tell you black power and all, black supremacy and all that, they have nationality card. King Noble told everybody on the blog talk with Abundance Child that he was a Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America. You think he's throwing away his nationality card like an idiot? He's gonna talk crap, but I bet you he still has that nationality card. I bet you he still has it. And he's not even telling you people to go proclaim your nationality. Because if he's a Grand Sheik, he knows about King Alfred Plan and he knows what's coming. Y'all keep playing. Keep playing. Because this European's not playing with y'all. Their job is to exterminate, terminate, dissolve the minority threat. Period. The greatest concentration of the minority is in the Deep South, the Eastern Seaboard, and the Great Lakes region and the West Coast. While the national population exceeds that of the minority by more than 10 times, we must realistically take into account the following. 1. An estimated 40 to 50% of the white population will not, for various reasons, engage the minority during an emergency. Right? Why would they not engage the minority during an emergency? Because they know that you have a desperate and dangerous will as a minority. They learned that in the LA riots with Rodney King. That innocent people driving their car, getting stuff thrown at their car, getting pulled out their car, get their ass kicked. That didn't do nothing to anybody. But the police officers who did something, the police station that those guys, you guys aren't going to go firebomb that. You guys are going to go bother, you guys are going to go harm and kill and beat up innocent people who never did anything to you. No different than you punks that go join the army. And the Europeans going to use you to go around the world, kick all these people's ass all around the world, but people who's planting drugs on you, beating up little brothers, all of them, you could, there's ample examples that people post on Facebook. This guy got beat up by police. This lady got beat up by police. This dog got beat up by police. You guys aren't going to go fight them, but you're going to go take guns and go across and go kill Hindus and go kill Muslims in other countries that never did nothing to you. When there's people up the street kicking your ass every day and you're not doing nothing to them. 2. American armed forces are spread around the world. A breakout of war abroad means fewer troops at home to handle the emergency. 3. Local law enforcement officials must contain the emergency until help arrives, though it may mean fighting a superior force. Power is an illusion. Nobuju Ali taught us that. So when they say that they're fighting a superior force and that local law enforcement officials must contain the emergency, that's no different than Django right? With Leonardo DiCaprio straight up coming out and saying, why don't they just kill us? How is it that there's all these slaves walking around on a plantation and one guy on a horse with a whip and everybody's just like, we're that cheap? So we forgot about Punic Wars, and we forgot about, you know, the fights that we had. We forgot about the Diwan, right? And us taking scimitars, cutting a horse in half and cut a tree in half and all that type of stuff. We forgot about who we are. That we're gonna sit back and complain about this European has us picking cotton when it's 500 to 1? 500 to 1. One guy on a horse on a plantation with a whip, and 10 brothers didn't think, yo, let's just kick this guy's ass. Like, why are we, like it's not even logical, right? Even I was speaking to, I think I talked about this in one class, but I did this Black History event, and this lady was reading the Book of Negroes, right? She was from Ecuador or something like that, and she couldn't fathom in her mind why we, as quote-unquote black people, let slavery happen. How is it that we just sat there and let these people deal with us? How did we just let people just change our name and just whip us, and we were outnumbering them? You know what I mean? She was like halfway through the book, and she's saying, I don't understand this. You know, I don't understand how you guys, you know, and I tell her, well, you know, not me, because I've been in this land. You know, like, we're not, you know, don't think every person that has dark skin is a Negro, right? Some of us, we were already here. You know, some of us were idiots that were here, and they just fell into subjugation because they didn't have any knowledge of themselves. So they fell for anything. She understood that. She understood that perspective. When I told her about the black inventors, and I told her about Black Wall Street, and how come those guys weren't picking cotton and got lynched, the bells were going off in her head. She realized that, okay, well, so it was only a select few of people that this happened to. Yeah, the idiots, the same ones today, call themselves Negro, black, colored, even though you know that that's a slave term that master branded you with. Even though you know, because grandma, you know, we all had that, we all asked that question, right? We all asked that question. How do we get this name that we got, grandma? Or uncle? Or mom? Or, oh yeah, slave master, you know, that's why we have European name. Okay, so you're not going to change that? You're just going to accept the fact that you have this European name, and okay, I have this European name, so my grandma said that, you know, we got this from slave master, and you're not going to change that. All right, no problem, because they have King Alfred Plan in place to deal with Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, right? So law enforcement officials must contain the emergency until help arrives, although it may mean fighting a superior force. New York City, for example, has a 25,000 man police force, but there are about 1 million minority members in the city. This is 1969, so that's everything's up right now, right? We are confident that the minority could hold any city it took for only a few hours. The lack of weapons, facilities, logistics all put the minority at a final disadvantage. Since the Korean War, this department has shifted minority members of armed forces to areas where combat is not likely to occur, with the aim of eliminating through combat as many combat-trained minority servicemen as possible. So all you brothers and sisters that are in the army that come into knowledge, and then you say, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to use this knowledge and fight against, that ain't even happening, right? That's not even happening, because immediately they're going to ship you out to somewhere where combat is not likely to occur, and the aim of them doing that is to eliminate through combat any combat trained minorities. Today, the ratio of minority member combat deaths in Vietnam, where they are serving as advisors, is twice as high as the minority population ratio in the rest of America. Below is the timetable for King Alfred as tentatively suggested by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who recommend that the operation be made over a period of 8 hours. Like Islam to the 8 Moors online, since we're at 8 hours. 1. Local police and minority leaders in action to head off the emergency. 2. Countdown to 8 hours begins at the moment the president determines the emergency to be A. National, B. Coordinated, and C. Of long duration, which is the 8th hour. 7th hour, county police join local police. 6th hour, state police join county and local forces. 5th hour, National Guards, 5th hour, federal marshals join state, county, and local forces. 4th hour, National Guards, federalized, held in readiness. Regular armed forces alerted, take up positions. Minority troops divided and detained along with all white sympathizers under guard. So the minority troops, they're going to be detained too. Negro, black, colored, you don't want to reserve your rights on contracts and all that stuff. You think, oh yeah, no, that's the white man's law, Moors is talking crap. All right. Just know, in the 3rd hour, you're going to be detained. In the 3rd hour, you're going to be detained. Right? All minority leaders, national and local, detained in the 2nd hour. President addresses minority on radio, television, gives it 1 hour to end the emergency. That's the 1st hour. And at 0 hours, all units under regional command into the emergency. So at 0 hours now, this is what's going on at 0 hours. So at 0 hours, survey shows that during a 6-year period, production created 9 million objects, or 1,500,000 each year. Production could not dispose of the containers, which proved a bottleneck. However, that was almost 20 years ago. We suggest that vaporization techniques be employed to overcome the production problems inherent in King Alfred. So we're going back again, 1969 minus 20 years. And then we already know, but you're going to do your research on what was the issue, what was the problem that Hitler and the Germans had with discarding of the so-called Jews. That there were all these bodies left over, which means that there was evidence to prove that they were exterminating minorities. So this is not something that is new. This is plans that they've already tried, practiced, and all they're doing is mastering their craft. And they're at the point now where technology has so surpassed the industrial age that their mentality is, we're going to vaporize people in order to get rid of them after we get them in this concentration camp. We're not going to be walking people to any ovens. We're going to make people vapor. Right? King Alfred Plan main collection areas. So we already talked about the 10 areas, right? And this is a more detailed map now of these 10 regions, right? King Alfred Plan collection areas, 10 regions. American concentration camps for the blacks, Latinos, and poor whites. Right? And there's all the regions. Okay? So it's not something that they're working on. This is something that they're planning. Right? And what are they using as the so-called concentration camps? Okay, let's go down the list. Locations of major concentration camps under King Alfred and Rex 84 plans. Names and locations ratified by the Provost Marshal of the 5th Army, who is in charge of the 200th Military Police Power Command. 1. Fort Drum, New York. 2. Fort Indian Town Gap, Pennsylvania. 3. Fort A.P. Hill, Virginia. 4. Fort Benning, Georgia. 5. Fort Stewart, Georgia. 6. Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. 7. Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. Fort Huachua, Arizona. Vandenberg Air Force Base, California. Oakdale, California. Fort McCoy, WS, wherever that is, Wisconsin. Allenwood, Pennsylvania. Florence, Arizona. Vicksburg, Arizona. El Reno, Oklahoma. Tulaca, California. Maxwell Air Force Base Camp, Montgomery, Alabama. Camp Crome Detention Center in Dade County, Miami, Florida. Alderson, West Virginia Women's Prison. Greenville, South Carolina Prison. Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Avon Air Force Base. Elman Ford Air Force Base, Alaska. And then all through here, they're just showing all the maps of where all these things are. Right? Make sure you go to RV Bay Publications and order King Alfred Plan so you can have this document for yourself to do your own research, because what's his name? Ray Higgins didn't do all this, right? He got the basic version. Okay. Right. That's just so you know that it's something that they already have in place. It's not something that they're working on. All right. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, an introductory programming manual. Operations research. You can start on page 3 or page 57. So we'll go to page 3. It is patently impossible to discuss social engineering or the automation of a society, i.e. the engineering of social automation systems, silent weapons, on a national or worldwide scale without implying extensive objectives of social control and destruction of human life, i.e. slavery and genocide. This manual is in itself an analog declaration of intent. Such a writing must be secured from public scrutiny. Otherwise, it might be recognized as a technically formal declaration of domestic war. Make sure you go read the Constitution and find out about people who are warring against the people and what the people's obligation is if they recognize that their government is running tyranny. Furthermore, whenever a person or group of persons in a position of great power and without the full knowledge and consent of the public uses such knowledge and methodology for economic conquests, it must be understood that a state of domestic warfare exists between the said person or group of persons and the public. The solution of today's problems requires an approach which is ruthlessly candid, right? Which is ruthlessly candid. Ruthless, ruth is Moabite. So if you're ruthless, that means you have no honor. With no agonizing over religious, moral, or cultural values. You have qualified for this project because of your ability to look at human society with cold objectivity and yet analyze and discuss your observations and conclusions with others of similar intellectual capacity without a loss of discretion or humility. Such virtues are exercised in your own best interests. Do not deviate from them. This publication marks the 25th anniversary of the Third World War, called the Quiet War, being conducted using objective biological warfare fought with silent weapons. This book contains an introductory description of this war, its strategies, and its weaponry. Silent weapon technology has evolved from operations research, OR, a strategic and tactical methodology developed under the military management in England during World War II. The original purpose of operations research was to study the strategic and tactical problems of air and land defense with the objective of effective use of limited military resources against foreign enemies, i.e. logistics. It was soon recognized by those in positions of power that the same methods might be useful for totally controlling a society, but better tools were necessary. Social engineering, which is the analysis and automation of a society, requires the correlation of great amounts of constantly hanging economic information, data. So, a high-speed computerized data processing system was necessary which could race ahead of the society and predict when society would arrive for capitulation. Relay computers were too slow, but the electronic computer, invented in 1946 by J. Presper Eckert, so P-R-E-S-P-E-R, Eckert, E-C-K-E-R-T, and John W. Mauchly, so John W. M-A-U-C-H-L-Y, filled the bill. The next breakthrough was the development of the simple method of linear programming in 1947 by the mathematician George B. Dantzig, D-A-N-T-Z-I-G. Then, in 1948, the transistor, invented by J. Barden, B-A-R-D-O-E-N, W.H. Brattain, B-R-A-T-T-A-I-N, and W. Shockley, promised great expansion of the computer field by reducing space and power requirements. Keep in mind, W. Shockley is the same W. Shockley that Francis Cress Welsing had debate with. So check that out, right? William Shockley versus Francis Cress Welsing. With these three in positions of power, strongly suspected that it was possible for them to control the whole world with the push of a button. Immediately, the Rockefeller Foundation got in on the ground floor by making a 4-year grant at Harvard College, funding the Harvard Economic Research Project for the study of the structure of the American economy. 1 year later, In 1949, the United States Air Force joined in. In 1952, the original grant period terminated and a high-level meeting of the elite was held to determine the next phase of social operations research. The Harvard Project had been very fruitful in its borne out by the publication of some of its results in 1953, suggesting the feasibility of economic social engineering. Engineered in the last half-decade of the 1940s, the now quiet war machine stood, so to speak, in sparkling gold-plated hardware on the showroom floor by 1954. With the creation of the Moser, M-O-S-E-R, in 1954, the promise of unlocking unlimited sources of fusion atomic energy from the heavy hydrogen in seawater and the consequent availability of unlimited social power became a possibility only decades away. The combination was irresistible. The Quiet War was quietly declared by the international elite at a meeting held in 1954. Although the silent weapons system was nearly exposed 13 years later, the evolution of the new weapons system has never suffered any major setbacks. This volume marks the 25th anniversary of the beginning of the Quiet War. Already, this domestic war has had many victories on many fronts throughout the world. Political introduction. In 1954, it was well recognized by those in positions of authority that it was only a matter of time, only a few decades, before the general public would be able to grasp and upset the cradle of power. For the very elements of the new silent weapon technology were as accessible for a public utopia as they were for providing a private utopia. The issue of primary concern, that of dominance, revolved around the subject of energy sciences. Energy. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy, and social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge, the end is control. Beyond this remains only one issue: who will be the beneficiary? In 1954, this was the issues of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American people, with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy, quote-unquote wealth, of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply new weapons which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle and sophisticated in their principle of operation and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name silent weapons. In conclusion, the objective of economic research as conducted by the magnates of capital banking and the industries of commodities, goods, land, services is the establishment of an economy which is totally predictable and manipulable. In order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the low-class elements of society must be, the minority, must be brought under total control, i.e. must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke and long-term social duties from a very early age before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and establishment of government-operated daycare centers for the occupationally orphaned children. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the meat of ignorance, isolating the inferior class from the superior class, is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintaining some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. And we'll close out after this section. This descriptive introduction of the silent weapon. Everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon is expected from a silent weapon by its creators, but only in its own manner of functioning. It shoots situations instead of bullets, propelled by data processing instead of chemical reaction, explosion, originating from bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder, from a computer instead of a gun, operated by a computer programmer instead of a marksman, under the orders of a banking magnate instead of a military general. It makes no obvious explosive noises, causes no obvious physical or mental injuries, and does not obviously interfere with anyone's daily social life. Yet, it makes unmistakable noise, causes unmistakable physical and mental damage, and unmistakably interferes with daily social life, i.e., unmistakable to a trained observer, one who knows what to look for. The public cannot comprehend this weapon and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked and subdued by a weapon. The public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, but because of the technical nature of the silent weapon, they cannot express their feeling in a rational way or handle the problem with intelligence. Therefore, they do not know how to cry for help and do not know how to associate with others to defend themselves against it. When a silent weapon is applied gradually to the public adjusts, adapts to its presence, and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure, psychological via economic, becomes too great and they crack up. Therefore, the silent weapon is a type of biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, options, and mobility of the individuals of a society by knowing understanding, manipulating, and attacking their sources of natural and social energy and their physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. And we'll close out there for today. And next week we'll continue with theoretical introduction to the silent weapons, general energy concepts, Mr. Rothschild's energy discovery, apparent capital as paper-induced inductor, breakthrough, application in economics, summary, and then we would go to page 57, as they said, or before 57. We will talk about the table of strategies, the diversion, the primary strategy, the diversion summary, consent, the primary victory, amplification of energy sources, and we'll see how far we get. Also, keep in mind that if you get Behold the Pay Horse, majority of King Alfred Plan is in there, in the first chapter, right? Because Brother William Cooper wasn't playing. He knew what was up, and he wanted the people to get the information. That's why they took him out, right? Prophet Juali speaks to the nations. If you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Science Temple of America and become a part of this divine movement. Then you will have power to redeem your race, because you will know who you are and who your forefathers were. Because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now, need every one of you who think that your condition can be better. This is a field open to strong men and women to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men. If the Europeans, like William Cooper, and other nations are helping me, why not you? This is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish divine and national movement. If you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by this nation as an American citizen. This is what was meant when it said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added unto you," by the prophet. So as we close, I want to say Islam to the Moors who stayed diligent, Islam to the active Moors, Islam to the Canaanland Moors for continuing to do the work that's necessary to try to save these Negro, black, colored people from what they don't even know that's coming. To all the Moors worldwide that are active, continue to stay active, because victory is sure once we stay on the program that Noble Drew Ali laid down. And to all the Moors online, to say Islam, and let's just close out with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my guide, my protector, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam. Ashe, peace and hotep.